this thing to work. You gotta hold your mouth just right.
Oh, sir. Come to order, and if everyone would, we'll stand for a moment of silence and followed by Mr. Gilmore. Would you say the pledge, please? So we thank you.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business, as usual, would be to approve the agenda. When we approve the agenda, we also approve the consent agenda and all the items in it, including any minutes from any previous meetings. All those in,
One, no objection other than we have a typographical error in the meeting minutes from last session. On Dr. Cox's contract, it said it expired in 2013, but it was supposed to be 2023.
Very glad you got that.
any other corrections? All those in favor,
Page 6.
say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. I'll now turn the meeting over to the Director of Schools.
Good evening and welcome. We're thrilled to have you here this evening. And we have a lot to do on our agenda, but nothing is more important than what I'm getting ready to do, and that is recognize some outstanding students and teachers and parents as well. Before I get to that, I do have a few things of note for the board. One being, a week ago, we welcomed our principals and assistant principals back after a very brief summer break for our principals retreat. We had a great 3-day retreat. Dr. Cox was able to join us for the entire week, and I feel like we had just a lot of good collaboration and professional development during that time. I would like to say thank you to our lead team for the hard work that they put into planning that retreat. They did an outstanding job. We had previously sent out an invitation for a brick lane event for our Sullivan East Middle School. Unfortunately, due to some construction type concerns, we've had to postpone that. We certainly will have that event later on, but at this time it was scheduled for August 8th, and we are postponing that at this time to probably a later time in August. Our principals, as I said earlier, attended our retreat, and they have been back at work. On Monday, we will welcome our teachers back to begin their preparation for the 2019-20 school year. On Wednesday, July 31st, next Wednesday, we will have a large group meeting at Eastman, where all our teachers will come for a meeting that morning. We have a couple of guest speakers lined up, and we will be welcoming our new director, Dr. Cox, on that morning and give him an opportunity to talk with our teachers, and I look forward to that as well. On Monday, August the 5th, we will welcome back our students. Whether they admit it or not, I know they're excited to come back to school. Just like Mr. Putney sitting over there, and look at him. He can't wait for him to get back, and he can't wait to come back to work Monday. Don't answer that.
Well, I have to come back the prior Monday, so.
Okay. But our students will be back Monday, August the 5th, and I remind everyone that that is a full day of school. One additional note is on the evening of Tuesday, July 30th, I think most of you have gotten an invitation to attend a celebration at Emmett for our Emmett Girls A+ Camp. This is something that we've worked on for some time, and it is our first experience for the summer where we've actually had a group of girls at Emmett for 2 weeks. So many wonderful things have gone on at this camp, and they are going to have the opportunity to present a program to the Emmett teachers as well as the board and the community. So I look forward to that, and I wanted to remind you about that. You should have gotten a card in the mail. If you didn't, let me know, and we'll make sure that happens.
What time?
6:30. 6:30 to 8. Next, I would like to ask Mr. Flannery if he would come to the podium and begin his presentation. And we have some very prideful moments to talk about here. And the great thing about Aaron is Aaron got to attend the national convention with the students, which is an amazing opportunity.
So if you're with me, you can come on up. So all students, teachers, come on up. So, and what I have next, we'll start with Sullivanese, Miss Sanders, and Miss Collins. So, we have a lot of celebrations. What I bring to you, a lot of celebrations this evening, including national winner, which is a pretty big deal. So, since you're right there, you need something else to have you next week.
I don't know any of these people. Just kidding.
All right. Board, thank you for the opportunity to speak. There we go. So everybody, make sure everybody can hear me. I want to have some comments to make about some of these students. And we also have a gift to give them as a token appreciation for their dedication, and also just to highlight the students and their effort and representing our school district and representing us on the national stage. So first off, Sullivan East and Miss Town Collins. She's a recent graduate of Sullivan East High School. She competed in Dallas, Texas this summer in FBLA, and that stands for Future Business Leaders of America. Her teacher, advisor, and mentor, Miss Brooke Samples. Town competed in 2 events at Nationals, actually, and she competed in business calculations, which she was a state champion, and then she also took the TOSA desktop certification test, and she placed 9th in the country in that. So we want to celebrate those 2. And board and attendees, what we're giving them is a custom engraved drinking mug. So for the students, it says school year and the contest and their state champions in. And for the teacher, it gives school year, club name, and their title of being the advisor. So you all know what we're giving. Next, I've got Miss Sarah Watkins from Sullivan North, our lone raider that went with us to Skills USA Nationals. She's also a recent grad. And this past May, Sarah competed in Louisville, Kentucky with us in the contest called Job Interview, which sounds easy, but it's not. Her teacher and advisor is Miss Sonia Owens, the health science occupation teacher at Sullivan North. Sarah was state winner and placed 9th in the country. In addition to her national success, she's also recently been appointed an ambassador of Goodwill for the state of Tennessee. So congratulations, Sarah. Now for Sullivan South. First up is Miss Sarah Thacker, and she's in a lovely t-shirt. She's wearing her t-shirt design, which I'm going to talk about. She's a recent grad of Sullivan South, and is from Mr. Arwood's Digital Arts program. She competed in t-shirt design. You can see she's wearing her t-shirt today, and it's a beautiful design that you'll see, that you will walk in and see in a place like Cracker Barrel. It just stands out, and people take a lot of pride in wearing that. And one thing I made note in my notes is that her design it makes Tennesseans a proud piece of just artwork to wear. So Sarah competed at the national level, and she came in 14th place. So congratulations, Sarah. All right, next for our first undergrad, Miss Cheyenne Bison. Bison. Make sure I said that correctly. I didn't work. I think I still messed it up. So she's also a student at Mr. Danny Arwood, Sullivan South, in digital arts. She competed in a very just hard contest called Advertising Design, where you basically have a full week of workload to cram into an 8-hour shift. And there's a lot of stress and a lot of change and a lot of things, and I got the pleasure of looking over her shoulder and watching her go through that entire process, and it was awesome to witness. And not only was it awesome to witness, but for a young lady of her caliber to come in 8th in the country as a junior. Moving on to Sullivan Central, Ms. Taylor Hahn. Taylor is an uprising senior at Sullivan Central in the cosmetology program. Her teacher, advisor, mentor, Ms. Avery Putney. Taylor competed in a highly competitive event called Aesthetics and did an outstanding job, placing 7th in the country. I also want to recognize that could not have been done without her model, who stayed in the same position for several hours, and she's not here with us tonight, but Miss Jasmine Fletcher is her model, so congratulations to the both of them as a team. And now for the national champion. We only have one attendance. It's a 3-person team and a 2-teacher team. So we have Ms. Rhonda Flannery from Sullivan Central representing our digital graphics, digital arts, and Mr. Lord Putney representing our carpentry program. So they collaborate together to build a chapter display. And in this display, they're showcasing what Skills USA stands for, what it's about, also incorporating industry elements and technology needs, and basically all the theme of what Skills USA stands for, which is Champions at Work. So I want y'all to know that it's a big deal to bring home the gold. This is Mr. Putney and Ms. Flannery's very first gold medal placement. So congratulations to both of you and Mr. Ethan Punter.
I missed the hug.
This go to your head. But you know she got the biggest one. That's right, because you were the national champion. Congratulations. One I did forget, Ms. Harwood snuck up here on me, so he was going to stop to the side. So Ms. Harwood, one for you as well, sir. Thank you. Congratulations and thank you. So, yes.
I just would, in closing, make a few more comments. I've gotten to go to the national convention before and actually watch the students in action as they compete. When we talk about a national convention, what I want you to realize is there's students there from 50 states. There's lots of students there competing, and it's not just the state winner. Sometimes it's the runners-up. So we have lots of competition for our students, and to talk about being 9th in the country, to be 1st in the country, that is huge. The other thing I wanted to bring forth is the instructors that are standing here have given their time after school, during the summer. They travel with the students. Thank you. Thank you for dedicating that time to our students. I also want to recognize their parents. I would like for the parents of these students to stand as well. This takes a combined effort of a lot of people. And I'm thrilled that Aaron got to go this summer and be a part of this as well. Congratulations to all of you. I'm very, very proud of you, and as always, thank you for representing yourself as well as your school district and your school. Thank you for making people notice Sullivan County Schools, because we are #1. Thank you. remain up here with me. I've never had this honor before. So, at this time, I want to put on my glasses and I'll ask you all to stay just for a minute because I want to make sure that I get this right. Sarah's been here before, and she does an awesome job representing herself, her school, and Sullivan County Schools. And in doing so, people took notice at the National Convention. And I'm going to read something to you, and then I'll say a few more words, but imagine going to a competition and having other states cheer for you to win. This is what happened to Sarah. Finishing 9th in the United States at job interview, Sarah represented Tennessee with such pride and grace that word traveled to Governor Bill Lee's office. Sarah represented Tennessee during the Skills USA competition and shared the great things about Tennessee to other states. After receiving calls and messages from other states, Governor Bill Lee commissioned, I'm going to say that again, Governor Bill Lee commissioned Sarah as an ambassador of goodwill for Tennessee. Sarah represented Tennessee with respect and pride. Many people who spoke to her at Nationals said they wanted to visit Tennessee one day with the Smoky Mountains, Memphis, and Nashville. Goodwill ambassadors generally deliver goodwill or promote ideas from Tennessee to other states and lands. What I have in my hand is actually from the state capitol, the Tennessee state capitol, and on behalf of Governor Bill Lee, I would like to present to Sarah Elizabeth Jana Watkins, the Tennessee Ambassador of Goodwill certificate. And this comes with the best wishes and the message of Tennessee's hospitality to all people of other states and other lands. This is signed by Governor Bill Lee, and it is quite beautiful. And we present that to Sarah. She is a student who just graduated. We'll keep you if you'll come back. From North. We're very, very proud of you. And thank you so much for, again, bringing such positive light to our little corner of East Tennessee. Thank you all. I appreciate that. Sarah, that was a first for me, and I hope I did it justice.
Thank you.
Mr. Hughes, it's your turn.
Thank you very much. As we spoke in the workshop about the possibility of August the 8th, has everyone had time to look at that date? Everybody okay with that? We'll be at the workshop at 5 and have the meeting at 6:30. Then we'll consider that the date. The next thing I want to mention is of all the board meetings we've ever had, this is the first one I've ever dreaded. Tonight is the last meeting for our director. I want to once again express my gratitude for the hard work. Dr. Cox has huge shoes to fill. In my opinion, they can't be we can hire somebody, but I don't think we can replace her. Hardest working person I've ever been around. And, I wish you all the success, and, hope you get to spend all the time with grandchildren that you want to, and, we're not gonna let you get very far away. Still have a lot of information we need to tap into, but, thank you once again from a grateful community and.
Thank you. Thank you.
Having said that, at our workshop, I gave a little review of some things that's happened, and we've had a long period between meetings. So I usually don't take time like this, but I feel this is necessary. I wanted to begin by taking a few minutes to respond to the things that's happened in the last month or so. This is in part, the last part is in response to a request for clarification by one of our board members. But before I get to that, I would like to thank some of our teachers that so bravely showed up at the county commission and stood up for themselves and stood up for us. I want to call a few by name because I think they kind of organized it, but there were many. Beth Gilmore, Tina Bowling, Athena Warren, Anthony Todd, Mason Mosier. I think the videos that you guys put out there have been seen at least 1,000 times. I saw it. And having said that, I would like to respond directly to the criticism directed our county school system by one of our commissioners and to our employees. Let me state very clearly that he does not speak for our board, and he does not speak for all of our commissioners. He's no more qualified to make the determinations he did about our education department than he was to decide the size of the sewer line. But since he did take it upon himself to trash our school system, I felt like I wanted to respond publicly. Let me begin by saying I'm very proud of our system. I think what you saw here a few minutes ago is just a perfect example of why. Every month you see in front of this board excellence demonstrated by our students. That does not happen by accident. I have a saying that the secret to success in Sullivan County isn't a secret. It's that we work harder. Our employees work harder, our students work harder, and by the way, we do it for much less than some of the surrounding systems. I'm proud to be associated with all of our employees. I want them to know that I appreciate what you do. Our board appreciates what you do. And because in a few moments of anger somebody says something doesn't make it true. The people who make those statements will be judged by what they say and what they do, or the lack thereof. Not by me, but by you. And I just wanted to take the time to let our people know that we support you, we believe in you, we believe in this system. We don't believe that any score or number that the state tries to hang on you is reflective of everything that we do. And it's one measure, but there are many more. The teachers in this county take money out of their pockets every month to buy food, clothing. So I just wanted to let our people know, our board, and our community, we support you. Having said that, I want to spend a few minutes clarifying for the public the questions that have revolved around the construction of the sewer line. I'm going to go probably a little more quickly here than we did upstairs, unless somebody wants the questions that we had repeated, because it took some time. But I'm going to give the timeline and the sequence of events as they happen. First, in February the 22nd, we approved the contract on the middle school. And when we did, in the minutes, you'll notice that we mentioned that we still have a decision ahead of us, whether we're gonna build a treatment plant or a sewer line. So that was the first time it came up for our board. Shortly thereafter, we found out that the state wouldn't approve the waste system on property, so we knew that we had to go with the sewage system. So at that time, and the language, at that time, we decided that we were gonna go with the sewer line. Then on July the 9th, 2018, in our minutes, you'll see that it reflects, whereas the Sullivan County Department of Education has determined that these funds are needed to cover the cost for furniture, fixtures, and other items required for the construction of new facilities, we set aside $1.5 million in a restricted account earmark. Then, in November, we had, November the 5th, I believe it was, we had 2 more votes. We voted to buy the property that the pump station went on, and we voted to designate very specifically the $1,025,000 for that project. That was in November. That was in November on the 5th. So during the November County Commission meeting, Evelyn took the proposal to the commission, and it was looked at on first reading, and then on December, in their December meeting, they voted 15-9 to not allow us. Now, to be clear, the only thing we were requesting was to move the money we earmarked from one line item to the other. We didn't ask for a certain size sign or size line or for money for anything else. Only to move the money from one line item to the other. The sewer line should have never been a point of discussion. I point out at this time that we have paid for service, for engineering services from this firm, around $72,000. So it begs the question, why would we ignore their advice? To allow someone that's neither authorized or has the expertise to decide. But sometime between the December vote and sometime in January, the county found out about the City Bristol Kingsport sewer agreement. And some of our commissioners felt like that was an opportunity to get Bristol to pay for the sewer line. So before the next meeting, Commissioner Hutton called me and he asked me if we would still allow them to use our $1,025,000 for the project to offset the cost. I assumed the cost of what they now owe Bristol. I don't know much about that subject, but I said sure, as long as it don't slow us down. Now remember, we've been months now talking about this project. I've heard that he called other board members. I don't know that. Then this issue was voted on by the county commission both in February and in May. Those resolutions are easy to find online, and you can see for yourself that nowhere in those resolutions was there any mention of a 6-inch line, except to say on page 46, I believe, that 6-inch line, 0 feet. I think that's the only place it was mentioned. When the resolutions was published, it was still a 4-inch line. I realized this immediately and was satisfied, since in every instance, this is what our hired professionals had called for from the beginning. At no time during this process did anyone suggest anything different, except for a few individual commissioners. In June, I believe on June the 10th, I signed the contract, and as expected, it was for a 4-inch line. Then I got a call that commissioners were trying to stop the project. I told the construction engineers to keep working, that they had no authority to stop this project. And at this point, I want to read a couple of emails that were sent to me and to the mayor. Upstairs, we clarified that the only conversation I've ever had with those engineers was November of 2018, when I went and met with people who lived on the Weaver Pike, who were concerned about smell. The conversation I had with him in the phone call about when they tried to stop it, and then I had a meeting last Friday with the mayor and Randy Beckner. So we've not had ongoing conversations This email from Randy Beckner to Chris Davis, Evelyn, and the mayor states this: we have received shop drawing submittals from Thomas. Thomas is the construction company. I just wanted to make sure that we're all in agreement to stick with the original design capacity of the pump stations and not to upsize for additional growth. The current system will handle the middle school, a high school, a future elementary school, 2,100 students, as well as 75 houses. Add to that, if you change one pump, you can have 200 houses, a high school, a middle school, and an elementary school, or 220 houses, a high school and a middle school. So plenty of room for growth. On June the 26th, at 2:42 p.m., I got a series of emails. One said, I just saw that I accidentally sent this to the city inspector rather than you. Sorry about that. They are wearing us out, and the contractor, and something needs to be done about it. Meaning, these two commissioners, or at least one of them. The next email, June 26th, 2:42, Commissioner Glover was on site yesterday and shut the work down because the force main was not changed from a 4-inch to a 6-inch. I understand that a couple of commissioners were wanting it to be upsized, but as we discussed with the foreman, bigger isn't always better. If a force main is oversized, the sewage stays in the system longer and goes septic, creating odor, corrosion, and other issues within the system. When we met to review the preliminary plans, Commissioner King attended. This was discussed. We were told that the construction of the pump stations and the force main for the sole purpose of serving the county schools, and there was no money for additional work. Based on this, we proceeded with the original design and the gravity line to serve the high school, and left the pump station project as originally designed. So, as you can see, how there could have been any confusion, I'm not sure. That email I just read you was from Randy Beckner, that's with our engineering firm, Mattern and Craig, to the mayor and others. So then, let me catch up here just for a second. After reading those emails, I think you can see that there was never any confusion except for on the part of a few commissioners. I must make it clear that had their resolution shown a 6-inch line, I would not have signed that contract, as it would not have been approved by our engineers. I would not have had authority to do so. Can you imagine what they would have said in the next year when complaints about the smell surfaced on Weaver Pike? The school system built a line too big. They were told by their engineers there would be smell, and they still did it. We stuck with what the engineers said. We followed the recommendations, and we built the 4-inch line as it was designed. There have been questions about future maintenance. Those issues really are not a problem because we have an agreement with Bristol that after one customer, any one customer signs on, it becomes Bristol's issue. They take over the operation of the line at that point. So any one customer that signs up, it becomes their issue as far as maintenance. Because they were angry and we wouldn't build a bigger line, last week they voted to take $584,000 that they had approved to hook east to the sewer line, or to rescind that resolution and take that money away. That would have been nice, but we didn't ask for it, and it was not worth ignoring the advice of our engineers. This raises a few questions. Is it legal or ethical for that body to essentially coerce or pressure the school system to build a sewer line that don't meet the specs as it was designed? Or would it be legal or ethical for the school system to offer to build that same line for $1 million? This is a question that we will get a legal answer to. There was a few comments made at last month's meeting, or last week's meeting, July the 18th, that I want to address. One of the commissioners said he was sick of talking about this issue and wanted to know where I was at. Well, he shouldn't have been talking about it to begin with. They spent 8 months talking about an issue that should have took 2 minutes to vote on. They had no authority or no reason to be discussing it. I would also remind that commissioner that as a school board member, you only have authority in this meeting, and so does the county commission. I don't have authority to go stop a project, maybe it's if they're building a jail. Can you picture one of our board members driving by and stopping the construction? County commissioners or school board members only have authority inside a called meeting. If you read their resolution last week, when they rescinded the order, it says, whereas rescission of resolution 2019-0547, it is fitting, following Sullivan County Board of Education Chairman Michael Hughes' clear declaration that the Sullivan County Commission has no authority over this project, transforming this sanitary sewer project into a school department obligation and governance. Well, first of all, what they're clearly saying is they're taking back the money because we wouldn't do what they want, but they're saying something else that really isn't true. It was always a school system project. It didn't need to be transformed into a school system project. That's the part they didn't understand from the beginning. It was never a county commission project. It was always a school system project. So that declaration didn't really need to be made. It's always been our project. We signed the contract. The question I have is, could it be that many of these commissioners don't know what their responsibility is by statute? Who told them they had authority over school projects? They need to focus on the responsibilities given to them by the state. When Mr. Aker called me out last week, it occurred to me that even though I wasn't at their meeting, as it turned out, I knew more about what they voted on than they did. And the only time I've ever heard his name was during that meeting, and I did see on Facebook where he blew up a paper target when he was demonstrating his expertise in budget matters. So you can find that on his Facebook page. This school board is not subordinate to the county commission. We respect their authority where it exists, and they must respect ours. It's not the job or the responsibility of the county commission to build the schools. It's their job and it's their function to fund the school system, the highway department, the sheriff's department, EMS, and others. And they are required by statute to do that. And they've demonstrated that really they just want to do it to the minimum extent allowed by law. I'd like to also mention that this isn't the first effort that these two commissioners tried to exercise authority that they don't have. They tried to pass a resolution to stop the high school. And the same two commissioners showed up in front of this board in the spring of 2017 demanding that we move the location of the middle school, even though we had already selected the property and spent millions of dollars. So I wonder what they'll try to do next. It's clear that they don't know what their legal responsibilities is, and tonight I would like to make it clear that the school system's authority is not up for barter or trade, or we're not going to, for $584,000 or $5 million, we won't trade our authority and build projects that don't meet engineer specs. I suspect that in the past, this has been done, and maybe that's the reason we have some of the issues we have with schools in the wrong locations and expenditures made that maybe it shouldn't have been made. This school board is strictly following our policy and following the law. We didn't build these schools in any location that was that somebody was to benefit from. Personally, we did it to suit our system and our future growth demands. Once again, I would ask the county commission to respect our authority. We certainly respect their authority. And if anyone from the public or anybody has an interest to see or have anything that I've said here approved, I'll be glad to glad to, so our minutes are online and so are theirs. And, I'll be glad to, try to substantiate anything I've said here tonight. And I'm sorry to take the time, but I felt with, all the gossip and things out there that needed to be clarified. And at this time, I'll first take questions. I mean, I know we had questions at the workshop. Maybe somebody's thought of a question we didn't ask or didn't answer. And if not, any questions, I would give anyone else a chance to comment on what I have since I've taken so much time. I think it's only fair. I'll say one more thing and then I'll let it go. Had that contract came back 6-inch line, had the resolutions been specific for a 6-inch line, we could not have signed that contract with the engineers recommending something different. I wouldn't have had that authority and I just wouldn't have done it. I only have the authority to carry out the direction of the majority of this board. And having said that, if no one else has any comments, we'll move on. Anyone?
Alright. Item 6, unfinished business. Item 6A is Holston Warehouse property. We did bring this up during the work session. Mr. Hull is going to delay that until the August 8th meeting and possibly provide some more information then. Item 6B is the 2019-20 general purpose budget. We do not have an updated budget to present to the board tonight. As I said earlier, Ingrid and I still have questions. As late as today, we're still in conversation with other people. And we are continuing to move forward, and I would expect that Dr. Cox will present you with a budget at the August 8th school board meeting. Mr. Jones has asked me to be recognized on this topic.
I have a recommendation that I'd like to make. Prior to making that recommendation, I would like to read some facts into the record. Going back in history a little bit, we have to live with decisions that have been made by prior boards and prior county commissions. But go back to April 2001, 18 years ago, the Sullivan County Board of Commissioners passed a resolution to issue rural school bonds not to exceed $24.2 million for ESG. That's Energy Savings Grant for the purpose of renovating and improving the school facilities and pledging state sales tax received by the Sullivan County Board of Education for the annual payments and interest on rural bonds until fully paid. In quotes from the commission minutes, the provisions of this resolution shall constitute a contract between the Sullivan County Board of Education and the Board of Commissioners of Sullivan County. End of quote. And I emphasize contract because it's important to note that any time that a board votes on a contract, that board is obligated to fulfill that contract. The annual payment is $6.9 million, with $400,000 coming from renovation funds. The $1.5 million comes from general purpose that's already been split with the cities. This is from the sales tax. Now fast forward to the year 2018-19, the year that we just finished. In 2018-19, the annual debt service paid by the Sullivan County school budget was $2,527,445. That's $2,527,445, with $562,000 coming from the renovation fund balance because the county commission did not appropriate renovation money for us last year. I have verified these numbers with Ingrid, and I think that they are accurate with the payments that have been made this year. Since 2001, the total paid by the Sullivan County school system for debt service is approximately $36 million paid from the revenue of the general purpose school fund. With input from past Sullivan County commissioners and the past Sullivan County boards of education, there was 2 contracts signed to authorize these debt service payments. These contracts had to be fulfilled before the debt service payments could be appropriated for any other expenses. Staff salaries increases have been very minimal since 2001 due to these contractual agreements that obligate the school system $36 million since 2001. $36 million since 2001. Many statements have been made that the Sullivan County Board of Education should pay teachers a salary equal to the city schools. I truly wish that that were possible, but without additional funding, it is impossible. In 2014, the annual cost to raise Sullivan County school teacher salaries to the Bristol salary schedule was $7,436,163. I have a spreadsheet that I calculated back in 2014 when my second or third year on the board, when I asked for the number of teachers at each grade level and each experience level on the salary schedule, and I plugged those numbers in to the Bristol salary schedule at that time, and that's the number that it took. That's a huge number. It would probably be even more now because of the increase in salaries of the city schools. With all that said, here is my recommendation. Since the first contract with a $1.5 million yearly payment from sales tax monies has been fulfilled, I recommend to this board that these monies be used to fund a 1.5% pay increase for all staff members. With this 1.5% that's already in the budget this year, this will give each member a total of 2%. By all staff members, I mean certificated, non-certificated, federal teachers, and all. Anybody who is employed, I'm recommending that we use the portion of the $1.5 million that it would take to fund that $1.5 million. We already have the half in there. That would give us a total of 2%. We know the county commissioners gave a 2% pay raise to county employees. We know that the governor had said that he was going to give 2%, but that was only those that were funded by the BEP, and we're not fully funded. My recommendation is that we take that money and apply it to the general purpose budget and appropriate 1.5% pay raise.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Spivey. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
And you would be able to take this back on the budget and go from one item to another without any type of other approval needed, right?
I have been instructed by unanimous vote by this board to go back and redo our budget, and clearly Ingrid and I will get to work on that, as well as Ms. Aker in her title budget, Ms. Buckles in the special ed budget, Ms. Anderson cafeteria budget. So we will we'll work very hard to come back to this board with some additional information. Okay, on to item 7, new business. We have 2 policies, and I'm going to bring those to you individually, but I am going to ask for both of these policies to be adopted on first reading rather than review and then adoption at the next board meeting, as I would like to not leave these policies for Dr. Cox to bring back. Policy 7A is policy 5.501, complaints and grievances. This policy is one that is not changing within its body. It is only changing at the as far as who the complaint managers are. We've been instructed that we need a female as well as a male. So we have designated the supervisor of human resources as well as the supervisor of federal programs as these 2 people for complaints and grievances. And at this time, I would recommend adoption on first reading of this policy.
I would make a motion to waive the rules and adopt it on first reading.
We have a motion to waive the rules.
Second.
Second, Mr. Jones. All those, any discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
So now Do we hear a motion on the original recommendation?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Gilmore makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Jones seconds the motion. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none?
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
The next policy that I bring to the board is a policy on facilities and additions. This policy is designed to make sure that any changes or additions to buildings or additions, meaning any additional buildings on our campuses, are such that they match the current architecture of the existing campus. It also outlines that those persons who are making the request are to send the written request to the principal, which in turn will bring that to the facilities committee for discussion. If the facilities committee does approve that, then it would come directly to the board for discussion and approval. I see this as a much needed policy moving forward, in particular with the 2 new buildings and the 2 new campuses that we currently have under construction. So again, I think I've asked Mr. Hubbard to review this policy, and it is my desire to ask for adoption on first reading and again, waiver of the rules.
Do I hear a motion to waive the rules? Ms. Thomas makes a motion. Do I hear a second? Discussion? Hearing none?
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes. Now do I hear a motion on for the original recommendation?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Jones. Do I hear a second? Ms. Thomas seconds the motion. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none?
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you, board. The next item on the agenda is item 7C, the naming of the basketball court at Sullivan East High School. You have in your packet a request from Sullivan East High School Principal Andy Hare, requesting that the basketball court at Sullivan East High School be named after a former coach, Mickey Forrester. I'll read the letter that was enclosed. The community of Sullivan East High School would like to honor the memory of Coach Mickey Forrester by naming the basketball floor after him. Coach Forrester coached the Lady Patriot basketball team for 19 seasons. In those 19 seasons, his teams captured 8 conference titles, 4 district championships, 3 regional championships, and won over 400 games. The Lady Patriots also won 2 sub-state championships and 1 sectional crown, which sent the teams to 3 state tournament appearances in Murfreesboro. More importantly, Coach Forrester set high standards for all his players to attain. Coach Forrester consistently expected his players, better known as his daughters as he referred to them, to be the best they could be in all areas of their lives. A class act was the theme he instilled through the 19 years he was at the helm. Coach Forrester was a pioneer in girls basketball and was respected in all of Northeast Tennessee as one of the top basketball coaches in the area. He was also an outstanding teacher and leader in the community. The time is now to honor a Sullivan East legend. The gym floor will be screened and painted this summer in anticipation of hosting the district basketball tournament in February. Foster Signs of Jonesboro will put the logo on the floor at the cost of $894. The Patriot Pride Association will pay the cost. We will then have a special night during the season to celebrate the naming of the floor. Thank you for your time and effort. Included in this packet is a diagram of the court showing how it will be, the name Mickey Forrester Court will be placed. In addition, you have the required 50 signatures from the community in support of this. This submission does meet the requirements of the policy and as far as those items that are required to bring to the board. At this time, I would leave this request to the board for further discussion.
I would like to make that recommendation, make that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Ms. Thomas. Discussion. Hearing none?
Mr. Spivey,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Item 7D, I would ask Ms. Amber Anderson to come forward and make her presentation in regard to the school nutrition program agreement.
Yes, the school nutrition program agreement is an annual requirement by the state school nutrition department. It requires my signature, Ms. Rafalowski's signature, and the state director for school nutrition, Ms. Sandy Dawes. It is just an agreement stating that I will operate the program financially responsible and follow all federal guidelines and regulations in operating the school lunch, breakfast, and after-school snack programs. The last page is the local agriculture plan, and it is just that when and if possible, we will procure and provide local agriculture products to our students.
I would recommend approval.
We have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Spivey makes a motion.
Second.
Mr. Jones seconds. Discussion. Hearing none?
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Spivey.
Yes.
Thank you, Amber. Item 7E, change orders for Sullivan East Middle School and Westridge High School. Deneen West was here earlier and provided insight to those change orders. At this time, I would recommend approval.
We have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Jones makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Gilmore seconds that motion. Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none?
Mr. Gilmore,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Spivey,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas.
Yes.
Would ask Mr. Miller, and let's hold off there because I think Mr. Miller did a good job with that explanation upstairs in regard to the 8 bus, I believe it was 8, correct, bus contracts that we're renewing. At this time, I would recommend approval.
We have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Gilmore. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Jones. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none?
I got a question on it.
Sorry?
Let me see if I can find that page. You're talking about the bus route length. It said 60 miles per day, bus route per day, the cost, and this goes through, I see where it says it went like through 2023.
Yes, bus contracts are for 4 years.
How long?
Currently we have approximately 100 bus contracts, is that correct?
Yes.
And they're on a 4-year rotation.
This is for 8 dozen buses, correct?
Yes, sir.
Which buses are they? What schools do they? Am I overlooking that?
All 8 buses are with Cox Bus Line. I can't tell you the specific bus numbers or which ones they are. Mr. Miller, if you want to bring that to the podium?
The only reason I was asking is because I seen the 60 mile per day. I was just curious, once these new schools open, does all this get washed out and we have to start all over?
No, that is consistent with all 100 contracts that we have is the 60. And actually how that works, Mr. Robinson, and for the board, is that ends up being an average for each contractor for that 60 miles per bus. They may have one bus route that's 30, they may have another bus route that's 40. So in the end, those all average out. That clause has been in this contract. Mr. Hull probably would know that better than me, but as far as even in 2008, when I became the transportation supervisor, the 60 miles was in there, so it's been a part of the contract for a very long time.
Way before that.
It's never, in my experience, Mr. Robinson, it's never been a contentious piece. It's always worked well.
Mr. Robinson, all of those buses except one are in the central zone. The one that is not is bus 446. The ones in the central zone are bus 101, 102, 103, 104, 116, 117, and 118.
Any other questions? Hearing none?
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Item 7G is the Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook. I recommend approval.
We have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion? Mr. Thomas makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none?
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Item 7H is dental insurance. And as I go through this, I'll also ask Ingrid to join me at the podium. I am going to start this conversation, and we'll have more in-depth conversation about this since we didn't get to this item upstairs. I came to the board back in December of 2018 and began the discussion in regard to our dental insurance. We are still self-insured in our dental insurance program. We are on the state plan for our health insurance program. In December, we talked about two things. One was we needed to raise our retiree dental insurance, and I felt like what we did there was a minimal increase. We raised it $1 for individual per month. A two-person went up $6, and a family went up $25. Now, what happened as a result of that was really probably a good fine for several that were on the family plan, because as we called them and talked through this, they found out that they didn't need the family plan at all, and at some point had just failed to change it. So that actually worked out well. I talked to the retirees, met with them, and they were very understanding about the need to raise the rates. We didn't raise the rates for the active employees at that time because we anticipated coming to the table to collaborative conference, and that just never happened. So here we are in August, and we actually have some new information as well. As we move forward, our dilemma with our dental insurance has not changed. It continues to only grow and become more of a concern. And looking at where we would be in January of 2020, we are looking at significant increases for active and again for retirees if we stay self-insured. What we found many years ago, and I believe it was 2004, when we moved from being self-insured with with our own health insurance plan, we moved to the state insurance plan. We found out very quickly that we liked being on the state health plan a lot better than we did being self-insured. When you're self-insured, you're paying your own claims, and when those claims come in monthly, it's as anybody's guess what those claims could be. And, we're dealing with that now, and it is significant. So as we have gone through this and the challenge, we have explored moving to the state plan with our dental insurance, and that is the fact sheet that you have before you. Early on, there was some question as to whether, if we went as a school department on to the state dental plan, whether our retirees could come on or not. And that caused us some hesitation and cause for concern, and we have retirees sitting in the room tonight. I think Sullivan County Schools has always done the best they could providing benefits for our retirees. But since then, in June, we have found out, we were previously told our retirees couldn't move to the state plan, but now we have found out that yes, they can. They will take our retirees with our active employees on the state plan. Now, you're maybe asking, why are you bringing this to us tonight? Why, let's begin the conversation. Let's have some more in-depth conversation about this before we act. But we also have been notified that we have to notify the state by August 1 if we are going to move to the state health plan January 1 or not. So not only do I want to discuss this in full tonight, but I am going to be making a recommendation to the board here just when we finish. So I want to make sure that as we move into this discussion, you know where it's headed, that you know that I'm going to be making a recommendation. I'm going to pause there. I've given you some background. I'm actually going to ask Ingrid now to go over the plan and the comparisons and the dollars, and then I'll come back to some additional comments.
I have one question, Evan.
Yes, sir.
You said move to the state health plan. You mean the state dental?
Yes,
plan?
sir, and I'm
Okay.
glad, thank you for correcting
Okay,
me.
we're already on this.
We're on the state health plan. By moving to the state dental plan, and that's what we're talking about, the dental plan, this would get us out of the business of being self-insured in any area. Yes, and again, and I will recall the days that we were self-insured in the health plan. I was actually in HR then. And I promise I won't go through all the jobs I've had tonight before I leave. But, you knew what day of the month and what hour of the day that, back then it was the fax machine, that fax was gonna roll in. And you just kind of stood there and held your breath, because the unknown is very scary in that component, because it's dealing with money. And, you have to make sure that, what's being spent out there, that you have the means to pay for it. And we don't know who's going to the dentist and how much it costs. Ingrid?
You should have in your packet, you should have a long sheet that looks kind of like this without all my scribbles on it, but on the left-hand side, that's our current plan. It's self-insured with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. The state offers 2 dental plans that our employees can take advantage of. We just listed the MetLife option here on the right-hand side of this page, simply because the 2 options that they offer, MetLife is the only one that has an established network that fits our area. Cigna's network is more for middle and western Tennessee than it is for us. But if our employees should choose that, they can do it. It's just up to them. And we just want to compare to this one. Because it compares more closely to our current plan. I'll go down the far right-hand column and you can look. Tina Dade actually did all this research and she's done all these comparisons. These are just the highlights of our dental plan. We could bore you with all kinds of different things there, but the major things that people use, this is what this is. You can see the first 2, they're exactly the same for both plans. It doesn't matter which one we're on. The third item for prosthetic and complex restorative services, Blue Cross and Blue Shield does not have a waiting period, or our current plan does not have a waiting period. However, the state plan does have a waiting period of 6 months. Again, on the fourth one for orthodontics, there is no waiting period for Blue Cross and Blue Shield. But the state plan actually pays more per member for that, and they actually have a longer age limit. You can have your dependents on there up to 19 instead of 18 with our current plan. The maximum payout per year with MetLife, where the state plan is higher, they will actually pay more for your benefit with the state plan. Deductibles are cheaper on the state plan. You can see the differences listed there. And in order for us to have self-insured plan, we have to pay for Blue Cross Blue Shield to administer that plan. So there's a $4 per member per month fee that is added to those. And these premiums that are quoted down there include that $4 fee. So you can see that the breakdown of the different premiums for each policy is listed there. And you can see in that right-hand column that there's a savings for active employees. And Evelyn and I have talked, and we believe that savings should be passed directly to our employees and not absorbed through the district. So we will continue to pay what we pay for dental insurance, and the savings will go to the employees on their side. So anything that would be deducted would just go a little bit less for employees. You can see that retired employees, there's a little bit of an increase. They would pay slightly more per month, but the bulk of our retirees are listed in the retiree only or the retiree plus spouse benefit lines. Another bonus that if we go with the state plan, they will directly take those payments for retirees' dental insurance out of their pension payments. So we don't have to keep track of checks flowing back and forth, reconciling those accounts. It comes straight out of their account, and we don't have to touch that. So that's an unseen benefit that we have on there.
And I would add, that unseen benefit is more than anybody realizes. As we have those two ladies in the benefits department. They're opening mail, getting personal checks. They're also sending invoices. It is labor intensive.
And it's also a hassle for the retiree to have to remember to send that out and mail it or however they want to do it. Some people don't like to mail, so they like to bring their cash in, so that's the trick they have to do. This would eliminate that. The second page just kind of breaks down the different premiums that we have and the savings that we would realize. The first list of premiums that I have is what we are currently paying for right now. August 1st, that's what our premiums would be. Blue Cross Blue Shield does an evaluation each year to see what we should increase or decrease our premiums for. So you can see that they have suggested the renewal premiums over in the second group of premiums. We quoted state premiums for MetLife. That is the most expensive option on the state plan. So we quoted those to give you a comparison. If somebody was to choose Cigna, it would be cheaper for that. But we just quoted that because I think most people will choose MetLife because there is no network for Cigna around here. The last two columns will show you the amount of savings versus what we are currently paying and what we would pay if we went to the renewal rates. At the bottom, there's projected retirees renewal rates, and this is a little bit of explanation as to why that's different. The state auditor came to me and said that we had a little bit of a problem. Our active employees were supplementing the pot of money for our retirees. In other words, retirees were having more claims than they were contributing premiums. So he suggested that we charge a separate rate for retirees. That way they could facilitate their own claims and active employees wouldn't have to supplement that. Based on 1819, if I was to charge retirees for the claims that they had, it would be a 25% increase. So you can see this is where, if we did separate that out, that's what the retirees would pay, those last list of premiums. So even though they're paying just a little bit more on the state plan, they're paying a whole lot less than they would if we did change that to what they were actually costing. If we actually charge retirees what they were costing in premiums, or in claims, if we change that rate to, it would facilitate all their claims. They would actually be paying a whole lot more than if they were to go to the state plan. So the state plan is a a slight increase for our retirees over what they currently have, but it's a drastic savings if we were to change them to what they would actually need to pay to facilitate their own claims.
Under our current plan.
Correct.
So they're recommending that retirees be self-insured as a separate group if we stay with our current plan?
No, if we stay with our current plan, first of all, they don't recommend that retirees do anything, but if we stay with the current plan, they recommend that we charge them a separate premium, not the same premium as active employees, because active employees have less of a claim than retirees are right now.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
And so you'll get where I'm going, because I'm concerned about the retiree group, and I think I seen here where, am I looking at this? Am I looking at this correctly? We have, 478 people on the individual policy.
Correct.
335 with a child or a spouse.
That's with the spouse. For retirees, that's correct.
Are self-insured plans like we have, are we required to have, like an 11-month pot, so that if we paid claims without any money coming in? I forget the term they use for that, but it's more or less a pot of money, so that if there wasn't any money coming in, are we required to have that?
That's why Blue Cross Blue Shield is administering this, and that's why they reevaluate it every year to make sure that our premiums are charging at the right rate, so you can have that pot of money.
Okay. So we don't hold it.
We actually hold it, but they do all the evaluations to make sure the claims, because they can see the claims as far as what's in the process and what we've already had. Because, you know, with any kind of insurance, claims can trickle in for months after you actually have the expense.
I had at least one question. In calculating the savings in the two columns, because what we're all looking at, so everybody out there knows, is the Blue Cross Blue Shield versus the MetLife.
Correct.
In the savings and cost, did you take into account that the deductibles were also lower on restorative services?
That's just strictly premiums. We did not do anything with deductibles or the fact that they would be getting more of a benefit in payout.
Because that one point I would make is that individual retiree on restorative services and prosthetic or complex procedures is gonna save $25 annually when you're only talking about the rate increase $1.20 a month. So if they have one restorative or complex procedure, they're actually gonna spend less, correct? I mean,
That's
cause and that would be per visit, so, and for the, I guess the spouse or family, they'd save $75 on that.
You're
Okay.
exactly right.
Okay. I just didn't know if you'd, I thought it'd be hard to calculate in, but that was another thing that would, I know you mentioned it, but in the cost savings.
We have found, and Evelyn kind of mentioned it, a lot of people have this dental insurance that never use it. And when attention is brought to it, they kind of look at it and say, do I really need it? I mean, I've been guilty of doing the same thing myself before. You buy it, it sounds great, and then 10 years down the road, you forget you even have it, but you're still paying that premium. So this may make some people look at it and evaluate themselves to see if they really need it.
And I guess since I get the deadline and why we're just hearing about it, but the only other question I had, and as much as I wanna pass on any savings to our active employees, and you may not have had time to think about this, and if it changes the administrative costs or anything like that, let me know, but is there any way that we could try to cut some of the increase for the retirees by, because it looks like the savings for active employees is a lot bigger number in the chart than the minimal increase for retirees. I know it's minimal, but I didn't know if there was a way we could balance that out.
The state sets what these are.
Okay.
So we don't have any control over that.
Okay.
And the retirees will pay the full premium. We don't supplement that by any means. They pay the full premium for that. So that's set by the state, and that comes directly out of their pension from TCRS.
Thank you.
That's exactly where I was going with my question. And to that end, again, I understand why we have a deadline. Have we had feedback from the retirees? Do we know what?
We have not, and I don't think this is actually setting anything in stone for retirees. This would just be so we could get permission to tell the state that we wanted to go to the state plan.
And that's where what I was getting ready to add. What I'm going to be asking the board tonight is to give us permission to notify the state that we are planning to come on January 1 to the dental plan. If there are other things that you want to look at, you know, the numbers, that kind of thing, you certainly can do that. And, you know, I really wish that we didn't have to tell them by August 1. We met in early June. It was right after that we got the information that our retirees could come on. I told Mr. Spivey earlier, I feel like I haven't seen him in several months, and it's just been 2, so, but we haven't met, and that's why we're here dealing with this right now. It is, and I agree, Mr. Spivey, when we looked at the savings in comparison to $1.20 for just a retiree only versus, as well as $2.13 for a retiree spouse. We have a total of 14 on the retiree child or the family. I think the other piece of this is in September, we have our open enrollment for our health insurance. As we're doing our education for our health insurance for retirees as well as active employees, we can certainly bring this to light as well. I wish I had the opportunity to meet with the retirees or to even meet with our, I see Mr. Dale back there with SCEA, also with Kim Levins with PET. But I think for the active employees, which would be his wheelhouse, you know, it's going to be a savings and quite frankly some better benefits. But in the long run, I think it solidifies what we're doing with dental insurance here, and by going to the state plan, it just makes us more, there's a word I've lost it, but I think we're in a better situation. So my recommendation to the board is going to be that, or I'm going to recommend and request that the board give us permission to go ahead and alert the state that we would be bringing on our active and our retired employees to the state dental plan.
I would add that we have approached Mark III, who is our broker, and Mark III went and tried to do some research to see what our alternatives would be if we didn't go to the state plan. And no one was competitive, and no one wanted to take our retirees on by themselves. So if we went to the state plan and didn't take our retirees, the only other option we have is to be self-insured. And if you were to go self-insured, that's a huge increase because you're taking all your active people out, so then they have to facilitate their own claims. So we did look at that because we were trying to make sure that the state plan was a good option. And everything that they got back from every other company was not competitive with the state plan's premiums. So, and they also didn't want to take our retirees. So I do feel like we've tried every alley that we could go down. I don't know any other options that we could choose. And I feel very comfortable that the state plan is good insurance for our employees, and it's probably better than what we're offering them now. And anytime you can get out of a self-insured situation, I would highly recommend it.
I think it's very wise to get out of self-insurance for anything, but I think it gives us more stability with making a budget for the future. When we know what the premiums are and we know the number of people employed, we don't have to worry about what the claims are. And history has shown us that state insurance is usually much better than anything else we can get. We also have a bigger pool there for the rates to remain consistent over the years. So I would recommend that we move as quickly as possible.
I have a couple more questions, if we can. When we obligate ourselves to the state that we're coming on in January, what if down the road we do have more options? What are our options to get out of it? I'm like Mr. Spivey, concerned about the retiree rates, and what if down the road there are options? Can we get out?
Yes, you can leave the state plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ingrid, but you have to give them notice. And in order to get back on that state plan, if you were to come off and then decided, oops, we didn't make a good decision, you may be able to come back, or you may be put on a waiting list, or, you know, it's,
And I don't think you can come off one year and go on back on the next.
No.
They don't allow that. I think you have to
they
go
don't
at
allow
least
that
2
at all.
years.
One of our neighboring school districts actually has experienced that with their health plan, where they came off the state health plan, they went self-insured,
And it cost a big bucks.
and it was not a successful, venture for them, and they actually had to wait, I believe, 2 to 3 years before they could get back on the state plan. So again, I totally agree with Ingrid, anytime, and Mr. Jones as well, anytime that you can move from self-insured to the state plan, you get into a state plan and all of a sudden, the membership in that state plan is huge. And, it helps create better, premiums for those within that plan, because the numbers speak very loudly in that situation.
I would point out too that I sit on a trust fund that provides dental insurance. These rates are really very competitive, especially when you consider the size of pool that we're covering. So I agree with the option to get off the self-insured plan. That's never a good idea, or hardly ever, unless you had just a lot of people and most of them were young. But I guess the other thing I would point out is there's a bigger maximum per year payout, so that would offset the cost as well. I have one more question. Maybe a different question in your world than it is in mine, but what are we able to do with that pot of money that is set aside for reserves?
And that's a very good question, and we've asked that question. We have contacted Blue Cross Blue Shield to see what the deadline is for claims to be turned in until we cancel. We know good and well that December the 31st will not be the end of our claims, that they'll be trickling in. So I'm sure there's a time limit on that, and Blue Cross Blue Shield has not responded with that yet. They will let us know. Once we have approached that time limit and met it, then whatever balance is left in that account, we can put it towards dental insurance to offset the cost.
And was I right, is it about 11 months in the school system in a self-insured world, or do you know?
I could not tell you that off the top of my head.
I know we keep read down this. And I just have one more question. Our note says retirees are allowed to remain enrolled in the dental beyond the age of 65. Would that be going to the state plan?
Yes.
Okay, so that's another.
They are now with our self-insured
Okay.
plan, but they'll remain doing that with the state.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna add one more little tidbit to this. You know, when we look at $1.20, can somebody tell me what the cost of a stamp, a postage stamp is right now? 50 cents. So if you're mailing in your check, that's half the cost of what your monthly is. So, you've written a check, you've got an envelope, but the postage stamp is 50 cents. So,
And you don't have to remember it if you retire.
and you don't have to remember. As a future retiree, I would much appreciate that being automatically taken out. And I would much appreciate not having to get out an envelope, address it, write a check, and put a 50-cent stamp on that envelope. Are there any other questions? At this time, my recommendation to the board is I am asking permission for us to move as the Sullivan County Department of Education to notify the state dental plan that it is our intention to enroll all active and retiree employees and retirees as of January 1 in the state dental plan.
You have the recommendation. Do I hear a motion? Motion by Ms. Thomas. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. Any other discussion?
Get ready to join you.
Hearing none.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr.
I apologize, because that is not normally how we get to that end result. We normally have lots of discussion with lots of different people. But the August 1 deadline has created, a situation for us that we had to address now. The next item on your agenda is item 7I, federal budgets. Ms. Deloach?
Matt. This is just our federal budgets for 1920. We finally have our applications approved and those are ready to go. There is a form that needs to be certified by your approval tonight, so if you would approve those, I would be greatly appreciated.
I just have one question. At the Summer Law Institute, some of us attended, that there was a speaker about the Perkins grants, and there was some additional money given, and there's another round coming, and I just wanted, you guys always know way more about that stuff than we do, but I wanted to make sure that our whole staff knew so that we could apply for it. And then I think something changed, that kind of expanded what you could apply for under Perkins, and they gave us a lot of good information where you can just go on the TSBA dashboard and plug in, to look for data that helps with those applications. So if anybody has any questions, we got a book about that too, but I wanted to make sure that we knew there was another round coming, and I think they extended what could be used for CTE or career awareness education down to the middle school level. It expanded maybe even to the early elementary, but it was a change that we found out about in law. I'm sure you guys knew that way before we did, but I wanted to make sure.
Sometimes you never know about those changes, and we did get legislative updates, and I think we got those in June, and some of those were marked effective April the 1st. So, yeah, we got them maybe a little bit faster than some people, but we still got them late. But I will tell you, and I was looking for Aaron. He must be gone. He'll tell you some good information. I don't want to share his good news, but he's doing very good with that, and they're
I saw some of
Perkins
the
grant.
equipment grants,
Yeah.
big 6 figures,
Yeah.
so that's good.
I'll just tell you one little tidbit of information, not that you don't have anywhere to go, but the Perkins grant, we get about $180,000 for the Perkins grant, and I would dare say Aaron Flannery alone puts in weeks worth of work for that $180,000. It is the most restrictive grant that I have ever seen. If you should get a sale on an iPad or a MacBook and you save $10, and you gotta go back in there and tell them what you're gonna do with that $10, because you said you were gonna pay $750 and you paid $740. It's amazing. So the effort that goes into that $187,000 is unbelievable. However, I think Sullivan County can pride themselves in the fact that we take that $180,000 and look at the CTE department that we have. I think tonight was very evident of that. We do a whole lot with a very little, and that's just a side note that has absolutely nothing to do with my federal budgets, but I think it is something that we need to take pride in.
I would add to that, Mr. Flannery does have some good news. He has already been notified of some additional grant dollars. He is he is heavily involved in seeking out additional dollars as well. I have every confidence in him that we won't lose the opportunity to make those applications. And as I said, he actually had a slide presentation for this evening, and we didn't get to it, but you'll see that at the August 8th board meeting. Some incredible numbers as far as our dual credit enrollment and those things go. So as Ingrid said, we won't steal Aaron's thunder. So at this time, is there anything else that you wanted to add on the federal budget?
That's it.
Okay, I would recommend approval.
We have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Spivey makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. Discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is item 7J, and this is Dr. Cox vacation days. Dr. Cox did spend all of last week here, Monday through actually Monday through Thursday here, and then was, in Gatlinburg Friday at the law conference. He will be here Monday, and, working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so those 5 plus the 3 next week are 8 days, and his letter states, per our discussions, I'm respectfully requesting to be credited a total of 8 vacation days in lieu of payment for days worked prior to my official start date of August 1, 2019. I worked in Sullivan County July 15 through 2019, while taking vacation days from Allegheny County Public Schools, and will do the same July 29 through 31 for a total of 8 work days. I appreciate your consideration of this request and am very excited to join the team in Sullivan County. This is the letter that was submitted by Dr. Cox, and I'm just passing that along by reading it to you.
I will make that recommendation and make a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. Questions on the motion? Hearing none?
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes, at this time, that concludes our agenda for this evening. I do have one other thing that I would like to say before we leave this evening, but I would turn the meeting back over to you in case there's anything else.
Well, first I will ask, do we have any public comment? I didn't see any, but I wanted to make sure. Seeing none, I will let you have the floor.
Thank you. It is, I can't believe I've gotten so emotional. Generally speaking, I'm not. But what I will say is, it has been my honor and my privilege to lead Sullivan County Schools for the past 4 years. My experience has been an incredible one, and I want to thank each one of you for your support, your confidence, and the opportunity to serve. During the past few months, I've spent much time reflecting on my career, and I am certain that when I chose to be an educator, it was definitely the right decision for me. 42 years later, I can't begin to count the many blessings that have come my way in many shapes, sizes, and forms. I've truly loved every stage of my career and will forever be grateful to Sullivan County Schools for giving me my chance on August 4th, 1977. I wish Dr. Cox the very best as he takes the helm next week. I embrace him. I hope our school district will embrace him. And I'll end by saying, again, thank you, and my heart is full. Thank you. Thank you all. You know what? You guys have spoiled me so much here in the last 3 months. You made me really think a lot. You know, do I really want to leave this? And then I realized, you know, I don't know that I'd get that same treatment in the future. So I can't begin to tell you how the staff and the community and our teachers and I'm serious. I just have been truly spoiled, and I can't begin to thank everyone enough. And I am so proud of our schools. I'm so proud of our personnel, and I'm so proud of our students. Mr. Hughes had some words earlier about our staff. And, you know, I hate to look back and have regrets, but on that very night when, you know, there was a statement made, I left, and an hour later, I wish I had made this statement, and I'll make it tonight. Our school district is number one, and when we talk about a one, I talk about we're number one. There's not a more dedicated group of people or a more caring group of people. I love our staff, I love our students, and I'd put them up against anybody. So, thank you very much. And we could talk all night about how wonderful they are. Mr. Gilmore's gotten to be at the helm of the school, and he knows what I'm talking about. Miss Thomas has been in our schools. All of you have been heavily involved in our schools. Mr. Robinson works with our kids all the time. You're all there all the time, and I think we do a lot of good for a lot of kids, and I'm very proud of that. So thank you, and I look forward to Dr. Cox and getting here, and please know he is so excited. And the time that we spent last week together, really good. We were able to share a lot of information. He was able to get to meet our principals and be with them, and I think our principals like him. What do you all think? And I think our lead team likes him. So he is. I said the other night, I'm the luckiest person in the world. I think he's very lucky too. So you all, this board has been amazing and wonderful to me. Thank you very much. And I know that Dr. Cox is a lucky man to get to work with all of you as well. So thank you, and I promise I'm not going to say anything else. Good night.
Don't see me tomorrow.
Okay.